Good afternoon, people of Derby. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you this afternoon. What a time to be alive, and what a time to be presenting Brilliant Derby to you. My name's Sanj, as you can see at the bottom there, and it's amazing to be connected with you. And there's a lot of optimism in the world right now, which is great. And we really, really hope, and all of our fingers, both hands, both sets of fingers are absolutely crossed for the next few weeks and months, so we can get through this time together. As you can see at the top there, before I come to our special guest today, if you would love to get involved with Brilliant Derby, please feel welcome and encouraged to send us an email at yes@brilliantderby.org. And that can be in many capacities. That can be in front of the camera. We're looking for a host. We're looking for a Derby equivalent of Sanj. I'm sure there's plenty. You can be of any age, but if you'd love to do that, please feel welcome to do that. If you'd prefer to be behind the camera and in charge of the IT and setting all this beautiful stuff up and making us look really, really professional, please feel welcome to get involved. And also, if you'd love to be on the show as an interviewee and share about what you're doing in the community, we would love to hear from you. So somebody is monitoring that email address, so please feel welcome to engage and share with us. At the start of Brilliant Derby, we had the Art of Brilliance doing a few sessions. We had Dr. Andy Cape, we had Susie Lavington, we had Martin Birder, we had Dr. Andy Cape again. And now we're going deeper into Derby itself. So it's time to get to know some people within the area within which you live. So without further ado, it's time for me to introduce our brilliant guest for this session. And it's time to see if our friend Jamie. Jamie, are you there, my friend?
How are you, mate?
Fantastic. Great to see you, Jamie. It's a pleasure to have you. Firstly, how are you? And how's things going?
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. I'm as you can imagine, with 2 under 2 and working shift work, but yeah, coping well, especially with lockdown. And yeah, we can see that horizon now, can't we? We can see the end. The end is coming, like you say. Fingers crossed.
A little bit of light there. Well, you're looking well, Jim. You're looking sharp. I'm getting a bit of beard envy looking at that. Gosh, that's great. That is.
Oh, could have done with a groom before, I think. But yeah, the wild man.
No, it looks good, Jamie. But pleasure to have you on Brilliant Derby. I'm aware that you do some amazing work within the community. So we're going to get a little bit into that in a moment or two. But please, before then, could you just introduce yourself? You said you got 2 under 2. How beautiful. Give the little ones a shout out. Could you just share a little bit about Jamie, please?
Yeah, so I'm Jamie, born and bred Derby, all my life. I currently work at Rolls-Royce full time, shop floor fitter, and I'm a mad nature enthusiast. I'd say mad nature enthusiast, and I've got two kids under 2, a boy and a girl. Elwood is the oldest, he's 2 in May, and Phoenix is younger, she's 5 months. Yeah, and they're little wild animals. Like me, actually.
Are they nature enthusiasts as well, Jamie?
I'd say so, yeah. I think Woody is a bit of a nature enthusiast because he actually likes to eat soil. And when we go out, he likes to pretend to be a dog because he runs around with a stick in his mouth most of the time. But I've kind of given up with trying to take it off him and just let him be himself. But he loves it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty, isn't it? That's the beauty. One of the great things about lockdown, again, we know there's been a lot of sadness and a lot of trauma across the world, but one of the beauties has to be, time spent with children and seeing children being children again, whether that's at home or whether that's in nature, that ability and that freedom to just roam and be a bit like a dog. If they want to be a bit like a dog and run around with a stick, no teachers telling them off in the woods, is it?
No, exactly. I think you bang on, mate. I think through lockdown, being able to be present with children and seeing children actually be children, I always say this about my kids, they're my teachers. I see them as teachers because the way that they behave and how present they are in the moment, there's a lot to learn from children.
Yeah, absolutely. A day is a long time for a child, isn't it? There's so many things you can do as a child in a day, whereas us adults, typically looking forward to the next hour or, next meal to get through that certain time. Whereas the child's thinking, well, I got I've got 15 hours where I'm going to be running around like mad, like you said. So what can I do in those 15 hours? Which is awesome. I really appreciate that, Jamie. Thanks for sharing about that. But what about the work that you do in the community? I'd love to get a little bit. I've heard great things about Jamie. I've seen a little bit on the internet. I've heard a bit of rumors in the grapevine. But could you please share a little bit more about what work and contribution that you do to the community?
So yeah, I'll kind of give an introduction to what it is and where it all started. I think that's quite important. So yeah, I'm the creator of Down to Earth project, which is now known as Down to Earth Derby. It was a project that I created out of my back garden actually, and it was from the conflict I was feeling being a nature enthusiast and building airplane engines. I think that's quite self-explanatory that you can see that conflict. And it kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what, like it can't just be me who feels this and who's stuck feeling like they want to do more, or they want to do more involved with the natural environment and actually like learn about all them things that they can actually do, instead of feeling like lost and overwhelmed with what we can't do. Because we, at the end of the day, being realistic, a lot of people, well, the majority of Derby, can't go run away and live on an island in a teepee and live off mung beans. Like that's not realistic, is it? What is realistic though is teaching people how to reconnect with nature, because ultimately in the ideas of Down to Earth and what Down to Earth is all about, ultimately the problems that we face physically, mentally, spiritually, economically, socially, everything fits under one umbrella, and that umbrella is our disconnection with nature, which is ultimately a disconnection with ourselves, because we are all part of the natural world. And that's a big statement to make, and it's a massive thing to consider. And that's why we simply put it is that we've got a disconnection with nature. So what do? Well, let's learn how to grow our own food. Let's reconnect with where our food is sourced from and how it's grown, and why it's important to grow organic, and what biodiversity means and what permaculture means, and all these different things. And then it wasn't just doing the allotment and the growing side of things, it was also getting people out into the Peak District. A lot of people from Derby, unfortunately, haven't got access to get to the Peak District. And that's not just access physically, that's psychologically as well. Like there's barriers and problems in the way to think, oh yeah, I can do that. So like Down to Earth was like, right, well, let's hit people. Let's be positive instead of the doom and gloom that we constantly see online about the problems that we face. Let's just go, right, okay, these are the things that you can do. Like these are the things that you can do at home. You can get a bucket and you can grow potatoes in it, easy, and you'll love it, and your kids will love it. And yeah, it was. We got the rambles going, so we're getting people out into the Peak District, so they were understanding where they were in the land and what it was all about, being out in the Peak District and going, you know what, there's something bigger. There's actually something bigger than just me in the city centre, and understanding your part in the bigger environment. And I think that's such an important thing for our mental health and well-being, to go realizing how small you are and how insignificant but significant you are at the same time. I know it sounds so stupid, but it's so true, because when you're going out into these places with other people and you've got this community and you're talking about the same things and you're starting to create relationships with other people and nature, it's empowering. It's empowering, and it inspires others to get involved. And I've waffled a bit there, but I hope that
No,
I hope that explains it well.
No, I could listen to you all day, Jamie. That's got me excited. That's got me excited to go for a walk after this call and roll around the mud and all these sorts. So I love it, Jamie. And also, I want to say that it's so true, because you linked it so perfectly. the link between us and nature, insignificant because there's so many of us, but hugely significant because we are contributing, not just for our lives now, but for your children, my children in the future, the future generations. The time and the ability to spend in nature is going to be completely different what it was when you were that age, and you would have seen the world change so much. So it's completely true. But also, Jamie, the link between spending time in nature and mental health, being out in the open, away from a screen, away from noise, away from the news, away from just the moan and the groan and the easy things to do. Like you said, you could have easily just said, right, life's a bit tough, but I could put on the telly and moan like everybody else. But you decided to think, right, it is tough, but you know what? I can't go and live in a teepee, so I'm going to do something where I live. And I don't need a teepee, and I'm all right actually, and I can grow my own potatoes. So it's amazing to see what you've done, Jamie. But I want to ask you. So you mentioned that it started in your back garden, but where is it now? So I from what you said, I understand that you do trips. What kinds of things? Is it in a different physical location? What is it? Is it community online? How can we find out and get involved with this kind of stuff?
So it kind of like, it was kind of a concept really. When it first started, it was a concept, and it was like, right, I just wanted to do the filming. I just wanted to do filming and meet people who were like-minded to me from different backgrounds, and kind of put them on a pedestal and understand that connection with nature. And I fell into a trap of getting an allotment plot and helping my mate out, and then kind of taking it over and going, you know what, like, we should do this because we're doing this as a group of friends and this is sick and we're getting so much out of it. But we understand that the generations around us now haven't got the access again to spend all day on an allotment and graft all day. There's a stereotype and a stigma that comes with an allotmenteering. It's normally you're an OAP because you've got the time to spend down on the allotment. And I think times are changing. I think a lot of people are starting to change their outlook and their views on allotmenteering. But I think one of the things that is what happened was basically we just went, well, we understand that people can't spend all day on it, so we will start doing meetups where people can come down and just spend 3 hours, and they can have that little toe dip into understanding where the food comes from. And the funny thing is, Sanj, this was all about connecting people with nature. And I always say this is the most profound thing that I've found in doing Down to Earth, is that it's developed a community. And one of the most important things that's happened is the relationships between people and actual community. How important that is, like that community resilience is amazing, absolutely amazing. So now we've got 3 allotment plots, and we've got obviously we've got a bit of social media presence, and we do Instagram lives and do Zoom events where we talk to people under the umbrella of everything to do with our connection with nature. And we do our walks out in the Peak District. Obviously lockdown has kind of put us in a position where we can't do everything. Fingers crossed, coming out of it, we're going to be able to be open to the public. We're going to be able to start doing our events again. We've got some really exciting plans and really exciting projects coming up where we kind of, COVID has been a bit of a blessing in disguise because we've gone, right, let's get organised, let's get structured. Let's make sure that the quality of the experience that we're giving to people is the best and they're getting the most out of it, because obviously lockdown has taught us how important our health and well-being is. Our mental health is massively important, massively important.
No, I love that, Jamie. It's really exciting, again, because you've seen the opportunity with COVID to say, right, people can't come, unfortunately. That's really sad, and that is tragic. But when they do come, gosh, we're going to make them have the best time ever. And again, I want to just pick up one thing before I ask you for some top tips, Jamie, is that you said about resilience and you said about communities coming together. And one of the things, like if you ever look into crisis and some of the happiest places in the world, is that when they have a crisis, the community becomes stronger. You know, people get to know each other more. People support each other a little bit more than they used to, because again, that stigma has been removed about helping each other, sharing that we might need support, checking in with other people. So what you've said perfectly, and what you've found with your community, is that going forward, once people can come, or once people do come, they're going to be having more fun than ever before, because they're going to be like, this is what life is all about. I don't need to go, you know, on a 10-hour trip or something like that on a Saturday now. I could just go for 3-4 hours, spend it with Jamie and his mates, and have a laugh in Derby. You know, you don't have to go outside anymore. You know, you can have the fun with inside. So that's really, really special, Jamie. So thank you so much for sharing that. Last thing, you mentioned mental health a lot, which is fantastic. You mentioned the importance of the links between nature and well-being. What would you say, Jamie, your top tips for anybody watching and listening to this now in Derby? What kinds of top tips would you give them to improve their well-being in lockdown?
Yeah, so I feel like I should take a bit of my own advice, to be honest, with all this, which is obviously quite hard when you've got kids screaming at Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, so my top tips, I think, obviously, because of my passions, getting outside. Getting outside is one of the best things for you. I say all the time to people, my garden is like my mate. It's like one of my best mates. Like, it's a sanctuary, and I go out there and I can just let my head just go out, and it goes to all the places that it needs to go to, and all the thoughts and feelings that I need to kind of express. So yeah, getting outside is so important. It's been scientifically proven that we have a connection with nature, and it's been scientifically proven to be so important to our health and well-being. So getting out as much as possible. I think community, obviously community is another thing. If you've got a community, it doesn't matter if it's friends, family, or people that you've just brought together in your life. I think that's so important, and be open with them people. I think one of the things, and it kind of goes under the radar a lot actually, because we're taught recently, and I think this is really important, like on social media, I find that we've got to be positive all the time, and we've got to be upbeat, and we've got to be 100%. And if you've got problems in your head and you're having issues going off, we're straight away going, you've got a problem, get it diagnosed. And it's like, no. I think one of the biggest things people that can actually do, one of the top tips, is sit with your emotions. You're a human being who's supposed to feel. There's a reason why you feel them things. Sit with them and try and understand. And sometimes don't even try and understand, just listen. Like, listen to your body, listen to your head, listen to your thoughts and feelings and where they're coming from, and kind of respect them. Don't try and shut them off. I think that's a big problem with where mental health can go for people, is that they shut everything off and don't feel it. And I think through lockdown, what a lot of people are starting to realise is we've got to feel things. You're human beings, feel them things, and try and let them settle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, especially in lockdown, Jamie, because when we're locked down, when we're home, it's so easy to validate ourselves with unhealthy substances. You know, it's very easy to feel a bit rubbish and then say, you know what, I'm going to spend the next 40 minutes on social media just seeing what other people are up to. And then once you go on the social media, you can start criticizing. You can say, I don't like this. I disagree with this. You're wrong. All these kinds of things. That's one element of it. The next one is what you consume in terms of alcohol and substances and what we eat and all these things. It's very easy once we have that feeling to neglect it and just do something else that makes us feel good at the time. But gosh, half an hour, 2 hours, the next day, the next week later, you're thinking, gee, why did I do that? And like you said, Jamie, you know, these things, lockdown's not something that lasted a week. You know, it's still going on. So you need to understand that going forward, if you improve the way you are right now, in 2 weeks, you'll receive the benefit. In 3 weeks, you'll receive the benefit. You'll notice when your potatoes are starting to grow that you have to plant them first, and they have to take some time. They don't happen overnight for things to happen. So it's kind of like bringing it back to nature, planting the seeds early, planting the seeds and just supporting that environment to let it nourish.
Mate, you bang on, and that is exactly why gardening is such a therapy, because, like I said, it's my best mate, but it's also my teacher, because I go out and you've got to practice patience. Things always go wrong in a garden as well, and you can't go have a go at nature, can you? You can't go, oh, why'd you do that?
And you can't just go and get next door neighbour's plant and put it in yours and expect it to grow the same.
I like that shout, yeah. But this is the thing, we've got to accept it. We've got to accept the kind of inevitable, and nature teaches us to accept that. Accept what you can't control, accept what you can't change, and the things that you can change, take them in your stride. Small steps lead to big changes. And I really like what you say. I really like what you said about the gardening thing, because that is something that I feel all the time, and that I think it's so important that what we can learn from growing things and how things grow, and what we've just said about the problems with people not sitting with their emotions and feelings. A lot of them things, for me personally, and like listen to my own advice, is if I go for a walk or if I'm in the garden, my mind wanders to the places that it needs to work on or think about, or even if it just needs to just be calm and quiet, I get there. And that was good, because Woody just kicked off a bit then. But no, it's right. And honestly, I think one of the biggest things is understanding your own relationship with nature. And I mean it wholeheartedly, and yeah, 1,000,000%, that if we start to work on that relationship with nature, a lot of our problems will start unfolding and actually not disappearing, but coming to the surface, that we can deal with them, because we've built that relationship, we've built that resilience with nature.
Yeah, completely. You know, often we know what to do, but we got to give ourselves the time to process how to do it. You know, everybody knows what to do. You know, if you ask them the top 2 or 3 big challenges in their life right now, they'd know how to get on the right track. But making the time and the effort to get on that right track is easy to suppress. It's easy to ignore. It's easy to say, I'll do it after lockdown. I'll do it next year. I'll do it in January. I'll do it after my birthday. You know, all these kinds of things. So I completely get it, Jamie. Just conscious of time. And what I want to say before we end this, Jamie, is for all the nature enthusiasts out there, we're not going to go into it today, but I just asked them to Google the heliotropic effect. Google the heliotropic effect and understand that humans and plants are very, very similar. So that's what I'm going to leave it with today, Jamie. But I want to say thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have a conversation with you. I feel really inspired to go out and explore and stomp around in nature and pick up some leaves and look at some grass and, you know, smell the soil and all these things I used to do when I was about 5. So thank you so much, Jamie. We really appreciate your time. And we look forward to meeting you again. And whenever I come to Derby, I'm definitely going to check out Down to Earth. So appreciate it, Jamie. Take care. Enjoy your time with the children. Enjoy Winnie the Pooh. And we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Nice one, mate. Thanks very much. Cheers. See you later.